Welcome back to my inner anchor, everyone. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, I'm Lee, and today we're completing our men's trilogy. Thank you for those who've joined me. Thank you for those who have reached out and said how much you've gained from this. Both people of all genders have reached out and said, because as I want to explain, as I have clarified or tried to in episode 6, which was masculinity, vulnerability and being human, as well as the last episode, which was brotherhood over banter. This particular trio hasn't and isn't about excluding anyone. It's just encouraging us men to be more grounded, to reconnect and to becoming steady again, so that we can be better people for everyone around us. This isn't the end of the podcast, I'm hastening to add, and on next week's episode we have our very first guest, but I will be speaking about that a little later on, so keep an eye on the socials. It's just the end of that little trio. It was an important enough subject, I think, of late to want to focus on it for a few episodes. I think grounded masculinity is something I'm very, very passionate about. The kind of antithesis of some of the louder noise that's going on outside in the world and online as well. Of course, the 3 episodes, it was dedicated to grounding, to reconnection, to becoming steady again. Of course, episode 6, being masculinity, vulnerability and being human, was about understanding yourself, how strength is actually found in vulnerability. It's not being loud, it's not putting others down, it's being true, being honest, having conversations you might not want to have because it's the right thing, and just standing your own. And I just reiterate what I said at the time on that episode, that if you think all these loud noises, let's put it this way, people who speak loudest often have the least to say. That's all I'm going to say. Those people do not deserve any more energy than that. But episode 6 was about understanding yourself, understanding where true masculinity comes from, and it's not within the shouting, the overbearingness, the ego, bravado, any of that. Episode 7, last one, was brotherhood over banter, was about truly connecting with other men, whether that be through sport or through friendship, but real connections and not just banter, and how important they are to the soul, how us men keep other men accountable, or how we should anyway. Some men that I mentioned probably don't, but it's about understanding yourself, connecting with other men. And today we're going to talk about living all of that, and living what you've learned, and living in the moment. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, not with pressure or performance, but just because of presence. Because here's the truth: perfection performs, presence connects. And connection, whether that's with yourself, with others, with the moment, is what makes a man grounded. So today we're going to talk about what it means to live an anchored life, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as practice. So let's get into it, guys. So I think all of us, not just men, but there is a myth of perfection. Be the rock, be the steady one, be the one who doesn't crack, doesn't wobble, doesn't falter no matter what life throws at you. Stand tough, stiff upper lip, all that rubbish. But aiming to be perfect doesn't work. Perfection is a mask, and a mask will disconnect you from yourself. You're putting on a false front. I think we've all done it, especially in the days of this era of social media, which is so much more prevalent than when it first came around. When I was a teenager, we've had like 20 years and a whole generation of adults now who have only ever known a life of social media. And whilst it has very, very many positive qualities, what it also can portray is that perfection narrative. It gives certain idiots a platform to talk loudly on, all of those things, because anything that's good will also be abused, right? Social media isn't the issue. the culture around it probably's got something to do with it, but possibly a topic for another day on that front. We've all chased that perfection. Like I say, what I was trying to say there is, on social media, that's a front, right? It's all there. People with flash cars, big houses, money, the holidays, the glamour, the glitz, all those kind of sparkly, nice things that we seem to be told to drive towards. And no one puts up that they're having a rubbish day. No one puts up a day when, this piece of music that I've been working or went to shit, or whatever it might be. They only put up the finished article. And none of us are a finished article, yet we're being put an image of a finished article in front of us and saying, well, this is what I'm doing, which can lead to feelings of inadequacy and all those kind of things. I mean, we've all chased perfection, right? I've done it. Perfect routine. What's the perfect balance, the calm, the perfect control of your life? If you can get everything just right, and just so, you'd finally feel happy and at peace and at ease. But perfection, didn't make me feel steady. That search for it, that want for it, because it doesn't really exist in reality. Some days will be brilliant, and you'll think, oh, that was an amazing day. Like today, before recording this, I've just been out. I was up early, very early this morning. I went to an airfield with my mum's other half, Sean, and my sister's other half, Luke, and it's a delayed birthday present, as it sometimes takes a little thing for anyone who's done one will know. But we've been on a hot air balloon ride today, and today's been brilliant, right? It's been awesome. But you cannot maintain that constant level of perfection, right? And there were things that didn't go perfect. I got my foot caught in the basket going into the thing. Did I let it spoil the day? No. But perfection and the search for true, unfiltered perfection, it doesn't make you grounded, and it makes me anxious. It makes you rigid, because you're constantly looking for anything that might go wrong. You're not enjoying it. You're not being present. You're looking for that overall ideal that might not come in that moment. But that doesn't mean that moment's bad. Doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy the moments. We all learn far more in moments where things haven't gone quite so right in life, maybe, than we ever learn when things are going swimmingly. And things, rigidity. Rigid things break. Presence is different. Presence is flexible. It adapts. It breathes. You can have a moment of presence in a chaotic day. You can look at something and go, right, okay, and bring you back to yourself. It's adaptable. You can be in a situation which is rubbish, that might be painful, but you can bring yourself to grounding and presence and truly focus on a bit of it that you can deal with and that you can process and that you can work through. And bit by bit, you'll get to process whatever that needs to be. There's a moment, and it's about presence for others as well as presence for yourself. There's a moment I remember really clearly where I was trying to hold it together so much, and it wasn't that long ago. I think I've spoken about this on some earlier episodes, but I was trying to hold everything together so much and just keep going through a day. So much so that I wasn't really there. I wasn't really present. I wasn't there. I was in my head. I was searching this new life, whatever that might look like, after my dad passed away. And in truth, I lost out on stuff that was probably passing me by. And that's not an easy thing to say, but it is the truth. People I care about would talk to me, and I wasn't there for them. I was rehearsing stuff in my head. I was trying to hunt other things that were going, other distractions that I'd put in place, because my life wasn't perfect. This huge trauma had happened, and I was trying to find ways to distract myself from dealing with it. I was trying to look composed instead of being connected. And I've had some pretty honest conversations with a lot of people I love about me at that time. But in those moments of those conversations, I realised something. I wasn't being strong at all. I was being absent. Presence would have made me steady. It would have made me connect with people more. With the moment, it might have helped me process things a bit quicker. But by trying to run from the reality and distract myself with a number of things because I wasn't willing to accept my then current and obviously now situation that, this huge thing had happened and that meant so much change, and then there was a lot of impact from that, So I was absent completely. And presence would have made me steady, as I say. Would have made me connect with myself. How am I feeling on that day? Even if it's that I feel absolutely dog shit. Even if it's that I'm really not in a good place today. At least you're being honest with yourself. You're still processing that emotion, as horrible as those days are. And I don't say that lightly, because we have all been and had those days. And if you're listening and you've had a day like that, you know how consuming it can be. But thinking about that, the fact that I wasn't being strong, I was being absent, something clicked in my head that said, you don't need to be flawless to be grounded and steady, but you do have to be here, truly 100% here. Not your body, not looking in the right direction, whoever's talking to you and smiling and nodding, but truly present. In the moment. And when things happen that are scary, and things that you have to deal with, it's not always easy to be in the moment because you want to run away from it. But dealing with it then, so much more healthy. It doesn't have to build up, it doesn't have to snowball. But presence, it's not a personality trait. It's not something that we just pick up. It's a discipline. It's a daily practice. It's not, as I've said before, this podcast with my inner anchor, and by extension the inner anchor philosophy, for want of a bit of a term, it's never going to be a revelation. I'm not going to tell you anything that you probably don't already know. I'm just trying to shine a light on some experiences that I've had, some my own beliefs, how I think people might be feeling, how I've personally felt. But it's not going to be some big revelation. I just wanted to help people by talking through my experiences, saying you're not the only one if you've ever felt like this, and also giving some grounding techniques that I've personally found helpful. Not everyone does, it's not for everyone. Everyone's got their own way of resetting and realigning themselves. But I hope for those who have found it helpful that it truly has helped. Presence is a variety of things. It's it's breath awareness, it's reconnecting with your body, feeling your feet on the ground, honesty check-ins, asking people, okay, what's real right now? What do you need to deal with now? How can I help you today? How are you feeling in this moment? Make it specific. I mentioned Talk Club in an earlier episode because I'd been through their group peer-to-peer support sessions, and their also one-to-one counselling, and their how are you out of 10 is incredible. It's so simple, but it quantifies it. It makes people say a reality. We are all so much better at saying, yeah, I'm alright, than actually giving the truth. So when you ask someone and you say, how are you, mate? And they come with, yeah, I'm alright, thanks. And you're not buying it, come back with it. Come back with, seriously, how are you out of 10? Because it gives them a space to talk. It gives them a moment to be present. It gives them a moment to walk through that door. So honesty check-ins, pretty grounding things. Movement is medicine. We spoke about this last week in the podcast in the Brotherhood over Banter. And I've spoken about it in other episodes. Moving, boxing, football, rugby, gym sessions, Pilates, yoga, meditation, whatever it is, training not to escape, but to express, to vent. It's not just an emotional outlet, it's a physical outlet. It's both. It's mind, body and spirit here we're talking about. But not just men, but us as people can often confuse presence with being passive. They think that being present means being soft or slow or detached, but it's far from being passive. It's actually pretty engaging. It's clarity, it's choosing your response, and I mean your response and not your reaction, because there is a big difference between how you react and how you respond. And that's something I really have learned to deal with, and had to learn the difference on the last couple of years. There's a good few books about that and some great guidance that I got given, just as part of everything that I've been through this last year, couple of years of self-journey and everything, because we react by our base level trigger reflexes, and sometimes how we react isn't how we feel. It's a combination of possibly everything we've been through that day, stuff that we've bottled up, things from our past, lack of sleep, lack of good food, lack of doing anything. There's a multi reasons why we react in a certain way, because we've all done it. You've been flying off the handle and reacted, and you've gone, why did I react like that? But your response is different to your reaction. And choosing to respond in a not calculated way, but in a thought processed way, if that makes sense. Don't send a message back straight away in the heat of a moment. Don't respond on reflex. Sit with it, look at it, reflect on it, see what the issue might be, see how you can feel, be present with it, live with it for a couple of days. You know what, most issues or most messages don't need that instant response, but we think they do, and I'm dreadful for that. It's that, oh no, I must respond to this, and that also dopamine hit of social media. If those messages are via social media, which more often than not, most of us communicate these days through WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these other platforms for us to do so. But choose your response. Think about what you're going to say. Think about what you want to actually say, and say it as best you can. Because none of us do that when we react. Presence is what stops you snapping at your partner, or shutting down in conflict situation, or disappearing into your own head when everything's a little bit too loud. It's strength. It's very much the quiet kind, the grounded kind, but it also doesn't need to shout, because it's honest and true and authentic. And this is where everything comes together. The three, focal points of, the last episodes, including this one: masculinity, brotherhood, presence, being human, vulnerability, strength. But, masculinity, brotherhood, and presence together, they form the inner anchor itself. They're not separate ideas, they're united. They're as one. They're not opposites. They're a united thing. And when we, use grounded masculinity and brotherhood over banter and, presence over performance, that stands us in good reason and good sensibility, I feel. Because here's the truth. Us men, we don't lose ourselves because we're weak. We lose ourselves because we're overwhelmed. We get disconnected. We're overstimulated. We're distracted. And presence can help you bring yourself back to self. Back to where you want to be. It's what stops you from drifting. It keeps you accountable. It's what makes you reliable. Not perfect, by the way, but reliable. I often, and it's not, there was a sense of talking about that reactionary thing there recently, where I could feel myself slipping into those old patterns, overthinking, overworking. I had to postpone my Just Push Play festival recently because a lot of things, mainly personal stuff, that I'm not willing to go into here. It's not the time or the place to talk about that. But suffice to say, someone I love very, very much is going through a hell of a health thing at the moment, and that has led to a situation where I'm needed by my family, and family comes first for me. The reason family is so important to me is the whole reason behind Just Push Play and why I set it up. So I had to do that. In announcing that, but while still wanting to allow that person the right to their own privacy, I didn't get too detailed in the reasons why I had to postpone Just Push Play. I simply said that it was due to personal reasons. Now, 99.9% of people have been amazing and utterly respected that. The 0.1% of people who didn't, as I said earlier, most people who have nothing to say really do talk the loudest. And I felt like I owed them a part of me I didn't really want to give. And the truth is I didn't. Like I'd said, it was personal reasons. People are entitled to their privacy. And I suspect if they'd been going through a similar situation, then these people probably wouldn't have come to Just Push Play, let alone put on it. And don't get wrong, I'm not being flipping about how a decision I made would have impacted them in terms of, a gig that they were looking forward to and one that I was looking forward to putting on. Very much not happening, and catching up with friends and all those kind of things that all go through everyone's head, and logistics and travel and all those kind of things. I know it would have impacted people, and that's never ever ever something that I don't take into consideration, but it is what it is, and it had to happen. And having seen people lately who are involved in my current situation, last weekend, when it would have been Just Push Play, I make no mistake. I stand by this situation. I am very much needed by my family right now, and I want to be there for my family right now, like anyone else does. But anyway, I've kind of got sidetracked there. But I was slipping into old patterns. I was overthinking every comment. I was jumping on things immediately. I was reacting. I wasn't responding. I was letting, like I say, the 0.1% of negative comments really impact me. And that's because I care, and I do. But a mate of mine said to me, when they'd seen, in fact, several mates, I'm very lucky in the support I did get, both from close friends, people who were just attending the festival and saw other comments they felt themselves were unjust. But one particular mate, in fact a few particular mates, but they took the time to contact me and say, mate, breathe, you're here, you're not over there, just take your time, do what you need to do now in this moment, and Just Push Play will happen when it's supposed to. Right now, here and now, it's not supposed to happen right now. You've got to focus on X, Y and Z, and anyone would understand that if they knew. And he was totally right. You see, presence is definitely not something you master. It's something you return to. It's something you work on. Again and again and again. And that's what living in the anchor is. It's constant work on yourself. We all carry something. Responsibility, expectation, fear, pressure, the weight of being strong, the weight of being reliable, the weight of being fine. But presence doesn't mean you drop the weight. It just means you carry it differently. You're tactical in it. You carry it consciously, you carry it with breath, you carry it with support, you carry it with awareness, because you are allowed to get support in the things that you are struggling for. This whole marching forward and doing it on your own makes you a real man is rubbish. Okay, let's look at some masculine things, shall we, for an example. Does the army contain one soldier? No. If our special forces across our country and across the world were one soldier, do you think that would make any difference? No. Do you think they could carry out the tasks they have to on their own? Absolutely not. They couldn't. No one could do that alone. When my dad was out in the Gulf War, the Falklands, up at Lockerbie, do you think he carried that weight on his own? No, they carried it as a band of brothers together. And even then, what they achieved with a band of brothers, my God, the mind boggles. You've only got to look at any history book ever to think, wow, how did they do that? But they did it together. They carried the weight together. It was shared. They had support. They had structure. They knew they could talk to people. They knew who they could trust. And they relied upon each other, literally. That brotherhood is really important. That's why I did an whole episode on it last week. And if you did miss that episode, then I would invite you to go back and give that one a listen as well. Because when you carry it with support and awareness of where you are and who you are and what direction you're going, if you know where you're going, you'll carry that right weight in the right direction. If you don't, you're wandering and it becomes tiresome. It becomes too heavy for one person. So know where you're going, know who you can trust, know who needs your support, know who you want to give that support to. If you haven't read the book, I highly recommend reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And that's not as flippant as it sounds, by the way. It really isn't. It's a great read. And it's about, we've only got so many of those to give. Give them to where you feel is just. Give them to where you want to give them. Don't put all your energy in places where you feel it doesn't serve you best. Basically, in a nutshell, is what that's about. And it's a great read. Being present in the moment. So carry that. And if you share that weight by carrying it, it feels lighter. Simple as that. I know that sounds so obvious, but it's true. Presence is what stops you turning the weight into armor. And stopping that armor becoming isolation. And stopping that isolation becoming collapse. Because we all know when we carry that weight on our own, it becomes too much. Because the weight just gets added to. And if you're not letting it go, if you're not processing things, if you're not letting others help you share the load, then you just get piled upon, you get downtrodden, you get on your knees, you get broken down, and you'll collapse. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. I've been there, and it sucks. It sucks. So don't let anyone ever tell you that that's what being a man is. It's not. When you breathe, when you're grounded, when you connect, you realise you were never meant to carry anything alone. That's the moment your anchor drops. That's the moment you return to yourself. I'd like to do a quick meditation now, if that's okay with yourselves. As you know, I like to end the sessions on a bit of breath work, just to go through everything. While I'm talking about this, you've probably seen a little teaser for the audio series, and I will be developing that over the coming weeks, so expect to see some bonus episodes, which will be the audio series for breath work and meditation stuff only. A few people have asked if I would do that, so I will be doing that as a thank you for reaching out. But now back to this point, back to the still point. Now take a breath. Inhale through the nose and out through your mouth. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the weight of your chest rising and falling. Let your breath gain that natural rhythm. Feel it move through your body. Remember, you don't have to embody strength. You can simply be. Inhale and breathe out. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your breath deepen. Remember, you don't have to be perfect right now. You just have to be here. Inhale and breathe out. You just have to be present. You have to be all honest. You have to be true. You have to make time for yourself. Inhale and exhale. Feel the space around you. Feel the steadiness beneath you. Find that quiet within yourself. This is presence. This is grounding. This is a still point. Inhale and exhale. Remember this: you are enough, you are capable, and you are here in this moment. One final breath in, and slowly exhale. As you're slowly exhaling, slowly open your eyes. It's just a bit of breath work, guys, to bring us back to self. I find breath work and meditation very useful for grounding and being present again. So I hope that helps. Now remember, perfection performs, presence connects. Remember that brotherhood isn't a performance. It's not bravado. It's not banter. It's genuine connection. It's supporting each other. It's holding each other up, not knocking each other down. It's finding your tribe. To spread the load. To be a part of a team, to overcome something, to accomplish something. That masculinity isn't bravado and rubbish online. It's not shouting down or being misogynistic, homophobic, racist, sexist, transphobic, any of these horrendous habits and personality traits. It's an ignorance at the end of the day. It's none of those things. It's not shouting people down. Masculinity is standing with those you love, standing by who you are as a person, standing tall, being strong enough to look someone in the eye and saying, I don't agree with you here. To hold yourself steady. The strength comes from within, not online. You can find that in teams. You can find that in playing rugby and going to the gym, kickboxing, martial arts, rugby, football, cricket, basketball, yoga, meditation, whatever way. You can find it in going to the pub or going for a walk with some friends and just talking. It's about connection, and strength lies in connection and links. When a shape has more corners and more links and more angles, it is stronger. And we are stronger as a network with more people in it. Remember that presence isn't perfection. It's being in the moment. It's the practice of being human. And when we live anchored, when we breathe, connect, and show up, we then become the kind of people, and in this case of these last 3 episodes, men, that the world needs. This is my inner anchor. I'm Lee, and this completes this particular men's trilogy. I have a feeling I might come up with another trilogy to walk down this road, because I find it very important right now with the online noise in the world. I hope you've all found it useful and helpful, and whatever it has brought to you, I hope it's brought you presence, brotherhood, strength, grounding, and true masculinity, not the toxic kind. So it's 3 pillars, 1 anchor, and a way of living. I hope you have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you find your still point, and I'll see you very, very soon.